Hello and welcome to MacFormat's weekly Apple Extravaganza. I'm Chris Finn.
I'm Matt Bolton.
And on this episode we talk about the iPad.
Amazon's losses.
And we also talk about a kettle and a woolly hat. Let's start with news in the world of Apple. Alright, so we're going to talk about the iPad, but not like just the iPad, although we do have one of the new ones here. Actually, we only have one of the new ones here, because the other one's with Christian, who's reviewing it for us.
Yes, he's in the middle of using it like professionally or whatever.
Whatever. But this is the iPad Air Mini. No, it's not. It's the iPad Mini 3.
Yes.
In fairness to me, Apple's changed its naming conventions quite a lot with the iPad lineup. But this is the iPad Mini 3, and this one's in gold, and it's actually lovely in gold, isn't it?
Yeah, even the bigger one is still just really nice in gold.
It's really, really pretty.
It's not overly bling or anything.
No, it's a really pretty colour. The white works really well with it. Because do you remember when the iPhone 5 was rumoured, sorry, the 5S was rumoured to be coming gold, everyone went, well, that's a stupid rumour, because Apple would never do that, because that would look dreadful.
Yeah.
And then it brought out this sort of subtle champagne shimmer. And we all went, actually, that's quite nice.
Although they do seem to have changed the gold in the new range from the old gold. It's now golder.
Yes, it is more gold.
It is less champagne.
However, that's not what I want to talk about. What I want to talk about is just the iPad in general, because in Apple's quarterly earnings call, which took place on Monday of this week when we're recording it, it was the third straight quarter of iPad sales decline.
It's not
year on year.
Yes.
They declined 13% compared to last year's quarter results. And obviously a lot of people are interpreting this as the death of the iPad's doomed, etc. But there are lots of reasons for it, and Tim Cook actually went into quite a lot of detail talking about it. Basically there was a sort of acknowledgement that, yeah, this is not especially lovely, but we're doing some things to combat it. One of the things obviously is the deal with IBM, which will get more iPads sold into the enterprise. But also looking at things like Apple is realising, as it's not a great Damascene moment, but they're realising people don't upgrade their iPads as often as they would upgrade an iPhone, for example.
Yeah.
And also that there's cannibalisation happening. It was funny because he talked about cannibalisation happening of the iPad market by Macs. That is to say, people are, and that's kind of the wrong way around, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a strange round to do it, but like over here they've just dropped the price of the MacBook Air, so it's actually now more likely for that to be the case than it ever has been in the past.
Especially as you push towards the top of the iPad range and are at the bottom of the MacBook range.
Exactly.
And depending on what sort of work you do, etc., etc., etc. But I'm really struggling to care, only in as much as, for me, the important thing should be, do you like your iPad? Is it a good device for you? And if the answer is yes, then the sort of bigger macro discussions about Apple's strategy and its business are irrelevant for the most part.
Well, yeah, the point is Apple wants to sell you a computer.
Yeah.
Like, for whatever kind of computer you want. Yeah. So it's got phones and tablets and desktops and
wrist-mounted computers as well.
And soon wrist-mounted computers. So basically, yeah, it's fine. Like, iPad sales don't have to be rocketing up while Mac sales level out. Mac sales are going up and iPad sales are leveling out.
Yeah.
It's fine.
Yeah.
I mean, the thing is, we had to really, someone should have been accepting that iPad sales would not have just kept climbing forever and ever, because it is a different kind of thing to the phone. Yeah. Partly the upgrade cycle, partly it's not something you carry around with you everywhere. But like, adoption of stuff is always going to go up very fast initially if it's super popular, and then people have it. Yeah,
and that was so. There's two things. One, that was one of the concerns. Obviously, if you look at the investor market and look at how people react to the iPad, they loved it because it was growing so much faster. It was the fastest adopted bit of technology that Apple's ever produced in terms of just raw numbers. But also, another stat from Cook in that earnings call was that in its 6 highest revenue countries, Apple still sells at least half and up to 70% of iPads to people who've never had one before. So it's not the case that the market is saturating, at least yet.
Yeah.
But it is the case, as you say, that the people who want them are mostly getting them.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense for it to have been a peak at the start, and iPad sales will probably not continue to decline. At some point, they will find the level of what the reasonable churn turnover rate, a few new people, a few people switching away. It will find its level, basically, and that will probably be a very profitable business, but it will not be this crazy meteoric rise that it has been up until now.
And at which point Apple might well Sherlock its own products, in a sense. If you think about it was only Apple could have the chutzpah and indeed the ability to kill the iPod.
Yeah.
And it kind of did it twice, because it first did it with the iPod mini, and everyone said, oh, that's a stupid part, no one's going to buy it. It owned that market. And then again with the iPhone.
Yeah.
So iPad, well, two things. One, whether it's going away or not is irrelevant to whether this is a good device for you. Yeah. And secondly, whether this is a good device for you or not, we will tell you in an upcoming issue of MacFormat. However,
let's move on to the wider world of tech. So the news that's come out in the last day or so is how much the Amazon Fire phone has cost Amazon to make, and it is in the order of $170 million that it has made as a loss because the Fire phone not super popular.
Yeah.
As we discussed previously,
yeah.
We didn't discuss that it wasn't popular, we discussed that we weren't really convinced it was going to take off on a previous episode of the Extravaganza.
Yeah.
And yeah, it hasn't.
And thus it has.
Apparently they've got $84 million worth of stock of inventory sitting around, not moving. So that's not great.
It's interesting. So I was watching an ad for it the other day on telly, and it was trading very heavily on the Amazon name. Now, I presume that at some point, somewhere in the development of it, the decision has been taken that Amazon is a company that people have good thoughts about. They like Amazon as a company. So they trade on that. In as much as you think it does things well, you trust it. So why wouldn't you buy a phone from there? But it is a standing start, and it's in the UK at least, we've got the tax thing.
I think for a lot of people trust it to be cheaper.
Yeah.
Like I trust Amazon to be the place where I can find things at the lowest price, not necessarily the highest quality goods or the best made or any of that. Like from them. In fact, we know the Kindle is really nicely made. Like I'm sure people who've had an Amazon Kindle will trust it and will probably repeat buy rather than switch to anything else. But like in a very general mainstream sense, if you're going to launch a phone at the kind of scale we've been talking about and expect iPhone level of interest and purchasing, then you need something different to your brand than that place that comes top of Google but is usually cheapest.
It's a really tough gig though, because it is Amazon coming from a standing start, and in anything where you're entering a new market, you need momentum. You need to sort of stick with it and let it build. So in one sense, it's quite harsh to criticise them so early on for the failure of the Amazon Fire phone. However, it's not a differentiated product. And the iPhone and the Samsung Galaxy range, and to a lesser extent some other of the Android brands, have got such huge mindshare that it's very difficult to break into that. Now, I'm aware that in all this I sound a bit like Ed Colligan saying the PC guys aren't just going to walk in and figure this out, which was the hubristic quote about the original iPhone. And yet it seems like it feels different to me, this situation.
Well, they are starting from a standing start, but you can do standing starts wrong. Like, it's not just like that's the only thing holding you back. Or rather, you can do standing starts well, as Apple did, which is you need to get it into shops for people to try. Apple has the Apple stores, but it wasn't long before it was partnering up with
O2 here in the UK, which is interesting, is who that Amazon has also partnered with for its launch partner here in the UK. So
yeah, there was shops where you could go and try it out, is the point. You've got people saying this is going to be the future of phones, and people can try it. Amazon doesn't have anything that's as you want to talk about it around the water cooler kind of interest, which doesn't help. That's just a late to the party thing.
Yeah.
But where can I go and see one?
Yeah. The late to the party thing is really important though, because one of the reasons the iPhone succeeded is because its ambition was big in as much as it was an incredibly big reinvention of the phone. But it was that classic Jobs quote about they want to have 1% of the market. They were setting their sights realistically. Obviously, as it turned out, they far exceeded that. Setting their sights realistically, but at that point the smartphone market was absolutely ripe for reinvention.
Yeah.
So Apple brought something completely new to the table, and even though it didn't sell in massive numbers initially, it was beginning to define the market that it would then control. But Amazon in this case isn't.
Yeah, and it was things like, the main thrust of what lots of people who saw it initially were saying about it online, and in terms of press and things like that, was it's all right. Just seems to be a purchasing machine.
Yes.
You don't have
It helps
any.
you buy things better, quicker.
Yeah, there's no conversation being promoted around it has a must-have feature that we talked about some of the nice features it had.
Yeah.
The polarized screen and all sorts of stuff like that, and like the funky interface. No one seems to think the weird 3D interface was a good idea, and the other stuff is just someone else can do it.
Yeah.
Like give
With
it
an
a
app.
year, and someone else could.
Yeah.
Well, either with an app or in the case of the hardware stuff.
Yeah.
So, like if it's a good idea, other people will just buy the technology.
Yeah.
Basically.
It's funny because in the ad for it, they're trying to show you the use cases for it, and one of them, it's not explicit, but I think what's happening is there's a group of friends having an argument in a pub about what the song is or what the TV show is that's playing, and the Amazon phone then, the Fire phone, shows them what the actual answer is, and everyone sort of like seems so pleased to be disproved. They're like, but it's just like, oh, it's an insufferable thing to do.
There's that joke about about how smartphones have ruined pub conversation, because it used to be you could argue about something for an hour, and now it's just 10 seconds of Googling and silence.
Yeah.
Silence.
Talking of silence, let's move on to silence. Let's move on to, I don't know. That's,
talking about noise.
My links are getting worse. Let's talk about this kettle and this hat. I cannot think, Matt, of a product in the world that you couldn't add one of the two complementary wireless standards to, and it wouldn't be a better product.
Two? What about, I'm going to assume you mean Bluetooth and Wi-Fi.
Yes.
What about NFC?
That's true. We haven't had an NFC hat yet, but we do have a Bluetooth hat.
Yes.
Which is smart and spiffy,
Yeah.
and cozy.
You look well hip.
Good. It's a perfectly good little woolen hat.
Yeah.
But it's also Bluetooth.
Yes.
The Bluetooth functionality is to add, there's actually an embedded earpiece at this side and another one at this side here, so that you can listen to your
like
tunes.
headphones.
Headphones, indeed. And there's a little controller on this side as well for play pause and for volume adjust as well. Now,
Inside into quite a nice little leather...
a little leather taggy
patch.
thing. Yeah. It should be said that this, on the face of it, is a risible product.
Yeah.
Fucking Bluetooth hat. And yet, everyone...
It's better than the old radio hats.
That's true. But not as good as the beer hats, which are fantastic.
Yeah.
Or the natural hats. Homer
Yes.
Simpson style. Anyway, so we got this into the office, all set to rip every kind of piss out of it. But everyone who tried it, with the music playing through it, went, do you know what? That's actually quite good. The music quality is, it's fine. It's not super good. It's fine. And it is a really comfy, cozy hat. It's light, it's like fleece lined.
Oh.
And
Done properly.
in winter, happy days.
How do you charge it?
Micro USB.
Oh, I see on the bottom here.
Yeah.
No, that's just black. There's not. Oh wait, I see it.
There
Yes.
is a micro USB port there.
It kind of folds around a bit funny. How much battery life do
I
you get?
can't remember. 6 hours runs in my head, but I could be just making that up.
That's right. Yeah.
Defaming someone about that. But it basically is reasonable battery life. It'll do for some commutes. And you know what? It's 30 quid, thereabouts. Just not massively cheap, but it's
Really?
fine.
And
you know what? This is the... Oh Lord, I forget what it's called. It'll be in the comments below this video. The Bluetooth Beanie, it's called. And happy days. However, that was a product that we thought was going to be stupid and turned out to be good with the addition of wireless technology.
Yeah.
This is a product that I thought was going to be stupid and indeed has maintained in its stupidity. Although you will senselessly defend this product.
I don't think it's senseless. What I don't get is your senseless savagery. You described it at one point as too much technology. Technology
much.
Gone too far.
It is.
Like, what is too far technology?
So this is a kettle. On the face of it, an ordinary kettle.
Yeah.
Which is
I've seen kettles before.
which connects to your Wi-Fi network and which you can control from an app on your phone.
Yes.
Why?
Like, why not?
But why?
Why not include it? It includes all the regular features of a kettle, as well as the ability to put it on remotely. Like, what is the disadvantage?
But the point is that, like, if you have to go and fill the kettle up anyway,
Unless you've already filled it.
Yes, unless you've already filled it, so you just got some skanky water sitting there all night. But you still got to go and make the drink. You have to be physically present to the kettle in order to make your drink.
But you can be physically present to the kettle for less time.
That is true. In fact, it does say on the packaging somewhere. Actually, it might be in a little bit of paper that I've taken out. Yes, it is. It will save you, I think, 2 hours a year in time.
Good. And in that case, it pays for itself in, I don't know, 10 years.
Depends what your hourly rate is, I guess.
But I feel like you and Tom basically saying this shouldn't have been made.
Not that it shouldn't have been made, but like...
Well, then what?
It has to be said, it is a perfectly good kettle.
Yeah.
It works. It's actually very quiet. It works quite well. There are if I say it boils water at different temperatures, what I don't mean there is it subverts the laws of physics in order to change the boiling point of water. What I mean is it can heat water to different temperatures for different kinds of...
I think you're forgetting that water does boil at different temperatures.
At different altitudes, yes.
And we're on the 4th floor here, so...
So it will boil at 65, 80, 95 and 100 degrees for different kinds of tea and coffee. Which is good. And it has a keep warm function as well, so it will keep... Actually, even without the keep warm function, it is vacuumy, insulated-y type thing, so the water stays actually hot for a very long time. Anyway.
So it sounds like a very good kettle they've added some extra value to.
But it's £100.
Perfectly reasonably.
It's £100.
That, like, have you been into the posh kitchen shops recently? This kind of kettle costs £100 for one that doesn't have wireless control.
Actually, it's £99.
Like, that doesn't even strike me... Like, it's expensive if you normally would buy a £20 kettle from Argos or wherever, as most people would. But if it's fancy stainless steel and it's vacuum sealed, and the posh kettles cost that much, if not more.
So you can boil it remotely. It has a wake up mode, so you can set an alarm, and it will say, "Good morning. Would you like me to pop the kettle on?"
Good.
And you can say okay, and it'll start to boil. You can have a welcome home mode, so using geofencing, it will recognise when you arrive home and can prompt you to turn the kettle on.
Yeah.
Good. Yep. You're loving all this. That's
like,
it has a
why
wireless,
wouldn't you include these things?
Wireless 802.11bg, so it's not N or even it's not even AC. Never mind.
So I won't be streaming my HD videos to it.
And it supports Android and iOS. And if you'd like to find out more about this, it's actually called technically it's called the Wi-Fi kettle, but they style it all lowercase, all one word. So
here's why I think you're a terrible person.
Okay.
And
it's taken us how many episodes to get around to this?
Oh, this isn't about the kettle. No, like, so one of the key things that struck me about this is it's great for people with limited mobility.
Fair enough.
Who don't like walking back to the kettle to put it on, and then either sticking around to wait for it or going back and then coming back once it's boiled is hassle. It's painful for them, or it takes a lot of time, or is uncomfortable. Like, this is... If they remember to refill the kettle once they've used it, then it's one journey, and they can just put it on from wherever remotely. So
you weren't actually joking when you said that's why I'm horrible, but I thought there was going to be some sort of comedy aside here. But actually, no, you're just literally calling me a terrible person.
Everyone who said this is bad is a terrible person.
On that bombshell, let's wrap up the show. Don't forget, you can subscribe to the MacFormat YouTube channel at youtube.com/MacFormatUK. You can watch previous episodes of this show by clicking the button in the middle of your screen right now, and you can of course download the iPad edition of MacFormat, and you can sample it completely free of charge in our app edition, and that's at macformat.com/iPad.
Did you tell them to leave comments?
I haven't. That's what I
didn't.
There was an L. Yes, as Matt says, let us know what you think of all the stuff we talked about this week in the comments box below. The success of the iPad or the failure of the iPad, the definite failure of the Amazon Fire Phone, and whether, of course, the hats,
threw it away.
Hats over there. Whether, of course, you think the Wi-Fi kettle and the Bluetooth hat are also signs that Rome is in decline. That's it for this. That's it for this week. We'll see you next week.
Bye.
Let's do that intro again.
No, because that could have been a good chat.
Could it?
Could have continued into, are you drunk?
I wish I fucking was. Is there any product, Matthew, in the world that could not be made better by the addition of one of the two complementary wireless standards?
Because I was just remembering last time.
Okay. I thought you were just doing a really good, I'm going to find your spontaneous joke funny.
Well, I'd done it before you said anything.
Tell me, Matthew, is there a product in the world that is not made of Easton? It's fine. If that happens again, we burn through.
Okay.
Is there, Matthew, a product?